Hello and welcome to my creative castle. If you're new to my channel, hi, my name's May. I love yarn. I love to knit and crochet. Those are my hobbies, and I also happen to have been born visually impaired, legally blind, and completely colorblind. So I mostly knit and crochet by feel. But yarn lovers, yes, we're in the kitchen today. Sorry, yarn lovers, no yarn, no stitching, no knitting, no crocheting in this video. So we are going to do a little baking today. Why? Couple of reasons. Well, if you are one of my regular yarn viewers, right, guess what we've been talking about? Knitting and crocheting pumpkins. All things pumpkins, because it's October. And so I was like, you know what we need in the house? We need this. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Blind lady in the kitchen just knocked something off that counter because she didn't see what she was doing. Okay, so I was like, we need some pumpkin bread in the house. So we're gonna make this super easy pumpkin bread today. We're gonna need a spice cake mix, and we're gonna need a can of pumpkin. At a minimum, that's what you need. Now, of course, I wanna fancy it up just a little bit. So I'm gonna add a little bit more additional cinnamon. And I'm also going to add some dried cranberries. I mean, we might as well make it really festive-y, right? Pumpkin and cranberries kind of go together for most of us. So I'm going to do that, but of course the additional cinnamon and the additional cranberries are very optional. Now, of course, you could also stir in some nuts, right? We got some pecan hat here. You could chop up some nuts. I'm not going to do that today, but I do love pecans. I do love walnuts. Those things are great in like a little quick bread, right? Just, be mindful if you're taking it to work or to a gathering or something. People do have nut allergies, so you might not even be allowed to bring in products with nuts in some places. Other places you might be allowed, but you definitely would want to let people know, right? There's nuts in the bread. And of course, if you wanted to, you could also add in some kind of chocolate chips, vanilla chips, cinnamon chips, whatever kind of chips you like, because just like what I say about my knitting and crocheting, right? You do you. You make it yours. Well, guess what? That applies in the kitchen too. You do you. You make it yours. So, of course, first thing you want to do is wash your hands if you're in doubt. We've done that. Okay, so next thing that we want to do is preheat our oven to 350 degrees. So let me do that. Get my oven turned on. Okay. So, and that is something that I talk about as somebody who's visually impaired. And October also happens to be Blindness Awareness Month. And so it's really important to me, even though, I know most people just come to my channel for yarn, and I get it because I love yarn. I think that I'm going to open up my cake mix, by the way, and we're just going to use this big plastic metal bowl, and we're going to dump our cake mix into the bowl, okay? But during Blindness Awareness Month, I feel like it's really important that I talk about how I do things in the kitchen, okay? And so that is going to be talking about how I've labeled my appliances. I will take the camera off the tripod and show you how I've labeled my microwave and my stove, if I remember. I really hope I remember to do that, so that you can see how I do that. After we do that, we've got our cake mix in the bowl, right? Just a standard spice cake mix in the bowl. Then we are going to find our can of pumpkin, just a plain old. Now you just want some like regular old pumpkin puree. We're not using anything fancy, right? They do make like the pumpkin pie filling and stuff. We're not using that today. We're just using pumpkin. So we are going to take this pumpkin and open up the can. It's just a simple flip top can, and we are going to add it to our, take our little spatula here, add it to our bowl with the spice cake mix, like that's all, okay? And then, let's see, let me find my teaspoons here. We want a half of a teaspoon of cinnamon, and let's see, find a larger opening, or I can stick my whole teaspoon in here. And something that I talk to people about is how, this is a great kind of a thing. It's going to be a simple recipe. You could absolutely use your hands. So, yep, I can feel that and know that's a half a teaspoon of cinnamon. That's all that I want, because there is already some spices and some flavor in that cake mix. So we don't need to add a lot more, right? So now I've opened up my cranberries. I'm going to get out my, about a half a cup. I mean, you don't have to be exact. It's dried cranberries, right? It doesn't have to be exactly a half a cup, but somewhere in there. We'll pour some in there. Yeah. It's not quite a half a cup, but I think it might be closer to a third of a cup, but we're just going to pour that in there. Call that good. And the other thing that you're going to want to have, because we're making pumpkin bread, right? You're going to want to have like a little loaf pan for your bread, and you are going to want to have some cooking spray to spray your pan, and or some parchment paper to line your pan, some way to, keep it from sticking, right? I mean, that's what we want to do. So, let's see. We're going to stir this up really well, and hold on just a second. I think it's all good. Okay, I think we're good, hopefully, right? We're gonna just use a wooden spoon. I don't think that you need to use a mixer on this. You could, if you wanted to, you could use a mixer on this, but it's not necessary. But it will take a little bit of muscle, right? I mean, that pumpkin is thick, okay? That pumpkin's thick, and we're adding it in to a cake mix. So you do want to stir what smells like pumpkin for sure. Woo, it's smelling very festive-y, feeling very fall in here, very autumny with all of that together. So you can use a mixer on this, absolutely, but it's cake mix, and it's definitely going to fly if you do that, okay? It's very powdery. It's gonna kind of go everywhere if you do that. If you do use a mixer on it, I definitely would start it out on low speed. But I think when in doubt, when you're visually impaired especially, but for everybody, right? When in doubt, really scrape down. If you can't see the sides of your bowl, when in doubt, start at the top. Use that wooden spoon really well and really scrape that bowl good. And try to make sure that you have all of that powder incorporated with your pumpkin, right? So because I'm visually impaired, it can be really hard for me to tell if all of my cake mix is mixed in. So I'm just going to be super, super thorough about this process. Really make sure I get to the bottom of the bowl, right? To the bottom of the bowl, and really turn that up, and swirling around all of the sides of my bowl to make sure that we don't have any, like powder lumps, right? So let's see, let me find my cooking spray back. Let me get the lid of this pumpkin out of my way, and let me find my cooking spray back. That was me getting a phone call in my earpiece. I do wear an earbud. If you're a returning viewer, you know I use a screen reader to access my phone. If you're visually impaired, make sure you feel your cooking spray, right? And you know which way it's pointed. So you do get it pointed towards your pan, and that kind of helps. It still goes everywhere for everybody, but it definitely can help if you're visually impaired. So, cooking spray into the pan. Alrighty. So, hang on, and I'll let you see what this should look like. Okay, so here's what I have in my bowl. This is my pumpkin and my cake mix, right? That's what it looks like. So I don't know if we can get this tripod, this horizontal tripod to work today or not. I'm not sure it's gonna work. Okay, while I have the camera off the tripod, I did want to show you, I talk about accessibility in the kitchen. If you're visually impaired, they make what's called a Braille label maker. You can just put Braille labels on the touch panels of your appliances. So I have a Braille number 5 on there. And then for my stove, I don't even have touch panels on my stove. I have a very old stove with dials and burners. And so I have this knob here that you turn. I do have Braille on my start right there, on a start, and then I have this knob, and what we did is we drilled holes in the 200, the 300, the 400, the 500, so I can feel that, so I know where to count. My 200 is my first hole, my 300 is my second, my 400 is my third, put my fingers on those, and then when I get to 350, I'm kind of aiming for the middle, okay? So let me put you back on the tripod. We'll pour this into the pan. Okay, I was really hoping I could get that horizontal tripod to work for us today so you could actually see into the pan and into the bowl, but it's a cheaper tripod and they don't really have a lot of options for horizontal booms on tripods. I'm gonna be honest with you, and so mine's kind of leaning, mine's not in the best shape, and well, I couldn't get a good angle on it where you could still really see in the bowl, and it doesn't have a very big boom either, unfortunately. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So it's really hard to work with that angle, and then still for me to be able to get this into the bowl would be a bit of a challenge to work under that small space. So I think we'll do it this way. I'm trying to make sure that I keep my bowl over the top of the pan. If you're visually impaired, yes, you can. This is a really thick batter. You can just like literally rest your bowl on the side of your pan so you make sure that you have contact with that pan, right? And that you stay over that pan when you're trying to get that batter into the bread pan. That's something that you want to make sure to try to do. So this is very, very thick. I think that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So we're gonna try to scrape out our bowl as best that we can. Boy, this smells good. Okay. And then you want to just smear this around really good, and make sure that it's even in the pan. Make sure it's level in the pan as much as you can. It might not be perfect. I'll be the first to tell you. Me getting this in the pan, it might not be the absolute perfect job of spreading and getting it even. But do your best, right? Whether you're sighted or visually impaired, just do your best. Yeah, okay. I think, let me see how full this is. It's probably about half, maybe a little bit more than half full, the pan. So that's a good thing. I don't think it's gonna run over on us. Let's see if I can get it up there for you to see without messing it up too badly. So that's what we have inside of our pan. I don't want to tip it too far because it'll fall out and it'll mess up what we got in there going on. But that's what we should have in our little bread pan, okay? Now, I am just gonna set this on a small little baking tray, just in case it spills, just in case you run over. I don't want the mess in my oven, right? I'd much rather have it on a baking sheet that I can just take out and wash and not have to scrub the whole oven. Now, of course, if you wanted to, you could line this with foil or parchment paper as well. I think it'll be okay. But I'm gonna go ahead and set that onto my pan. I'm gonna rinse this pumpkin, so I did stick my finger in there just to see where I was at with the level in the pan. So I'll rinse my fingers really quickly. And because I'm visually impaired, if you're visually impaired or blind and you're in the kitchen, you can absolutely cook. Just be safe, just be cautious. When in doubt, right, and use your oven mitts if you want. I use the great big ones that go over my arms and my wrists because this oven has been preheated. So when I open it, the sides of the oven are going to be very hot. So if you're visually impaired, you know, and you have any worries that you might touch the side of your oven, then just put your mitts on ahead of time, even though your pan is cold, right? Even though the pan is cold, if you think for even a minute that you might bump the edges of your oven with your wrist, then just put on your oven mitts anyways. And my oven rack should be in the middle position. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and start with 40 minutes on this. Alexa, set a timer for 40 minutes.
40 minutes, starting now.
Okay, now realistically, it's probably going to take 45 to 50 minutes even. There's a lot of moisture in that pumpkin, but I'm going to go ahead and check it after 40 just to be sure, right? We don't want to burn it. It's far easier to check it early than to burn the bread. So, alrighty, my friends. Well, we'll get back with you when the bread is out of the oven. We'll let you take a peek at it and see. So I really hope you enjoyed this video because, you know, all that talk of knitting pumpkins, crocheting pumpkins, I just had to have some pumpkin bread. Be right back when they're checking the bread. Okay, and we're back. My 40-minute timer has gone off, so I'm gonna go ahead. I got my toothpick, by the way. If you're brand new to doing like quick breads, any kind of breads, cakes, the best ways that you can do this are actually things that you can totally do by feel. Okay, if you're visually impaired, no worries. I'm gonna put on my big oven mitts again for sure, because the oven is hot now. Get my pan out of the oven, and the very first way that I'm going to check this bread is just to touch it on top. I'm going to stick one of my hands with my oven mitt on the side of that pan so I know exactly where that's at. Got to take my oven mitt off the other one, right? And then feel the bread, and you should be able to touch it very lightly. Just touch it super lightly, tap it with the finger, and it should spring back. The top of that should feel crusty. It should feel firm. It should not sink in at all. When you tap that gently, if your finger sinks in, then it's still doughy and gooey on the inside. So that can be your first test. Your second test is you want to poke it with a toothpick. Just stick a little toothpick in there, and you should be able to feel it's mine is very springy. Okay, this feels done. My first test, it feels done. I've stuck my toothpick in there. Now, if you're sighted, you're going to be able to see this toothpick is clean. There's nothing on it. If it wasn't done, there would be crumbs on there. It would feel, if you're visually impaired, you would feel like the inside, that tacky bread dough would still be on there. It'd feel real sticky. Now, it might feel a little bit sticky, but you shouldn't have like clumps of dough on there, okay? So, in my opinion, it's done. Okay, it's done. I'm gonna go ahead and turn my oven off. I'm gonna just leave it here in the pan to cool. I'm gonna tell you, I don't think it's the prettiest bread. Just as somebody who's visually impaired, I probably should have like smoothed it out a little bit more. It definitely feels kind of crusty and rustic feeling. Like maybe it's not the smoothest on top, but I will put the camera on pause. I'll let you take a quick peek at what it should look like visually, and then I'll try to get back with you in maybe like 5 more minutes, 10 more minutes, whatever. We'll pop it out of the pan and look at it and taste it. Okay, let me put the camera on pause. I'll let you actually see the bread. Okay, so visually, this is what my pumpkin bread is looking like. It smells delicious. It's going to be really hard for me to leave this in the pan for a little bit to cool. But I will. I'll be good. I'll leave it in the pan. Definitely, here's the touch test, right? If you wanted to see that from the top view, you touch it with your right fingers are clean. As long as your hands are clean, you're good to touch your food. Touch it on top. It doesn't sink in. My fingers don't sink into that bread at all. It's very firm. It's very crusty. I think it's going to be just fine. Okay, I'll let you see it one more time when we take it out of the pan. Alrighty, my friends. Well, we have allowed our pumpkin bread to cool for, I don't know, 5-10 minutes or something. So, what I'm going to do is get like a little table knife and just run it around the edges of the pan just a little bit. Make sure it's loosened in there right before we try to flip it out onto a plate or the counter. If your countertops are clean, you can just flip it out onto your countertops to cool. I'm gonna go ahead and put mine on a plate. Let's see, find my plate back and get my bread. Got my oven mitts back on because the pan is still kind of hot. And then we're just going to make sure that our pan is over our plate. Tip our bread out. And that feels nice. Yeah, it's definitely warm. It's warm. It's gooey. Tastes like pumpkin bread. It's very, very flavorful. The smart thing from upside down now on my plate. So the smart thing for me to do would actually be to get another plate, stick it on top of there, sandwich it, flip it back over, right? Now our pumpkin bread right side up. Let's take our same knife that we just used to loosen up our edges, and we got some crumbs on the countertop here, and we will just slice this off the end of our pumpkin bread. See what it looks like on the inside. Okay, here we have it. This is what our pumpkin bread looks like. It smells delicious. I wish y'all could smell this. It's very, very good. It's very flavorful. It's very good. Alrighty, my friends. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you come up with just a quick, fun, easy, very fall festive kind of dessert snack to have around for you and your family and friends. Alrighty, my friends. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And you know, I'm going to get right back to stitching. So see you next time. Bye-bye for now.